When Hunter abandoned me again for his first love, I asked for a divorce. He looked impatient. I won't give you custody of Barry. It seemed as though he was certain I would compromise for the sake of the child. I smiled. He bears the surname Hua, not Lin. Custody naturally belongs to you. On the way back to my parents' house, Hunter took a call and then left me and Barry at the service area. Guagua, Dad has something urgent to attend to and can't take you to your grandmother's house. Hunter ruffled Barry's hair and looked at me. Have Dad come pick you up. With that, he slammed the car door shut and drove off without looking back. All that remained were Guagua and my disappointed gazes. This trip back to my parents' home was because my mother had recently undergone a minor surgery and had just been discharged from the hospital. My maternal home and in-laws' home were over 300 kilometers apart. After getting married, I was consumed by mundane tasks, leaving little time for myself, so I didn't visit my maternal home often. Upon learning we were coming back, my parents were overjoyed and spent the entire day preparing a feast. When they saw only Barry and me, they seemed to understand everything and forced smiles to invite us to eat. At the dinner table, the four of us all avoided mentioning Hunter. Guagua is a well-behaved child. After dinner, he went to do his homework on his own. I stayed with my parents in the living room watching TV. The three of us looked at each other, each with something to say but unsure how to start. Finally, I broke the silence. Dad, Mom, I've decided to get a divorce. They looked at each other, then went back to their bedroom together. When I was still confused, they came out of the bedroom and handed me a bank card. This is your own decision. You should decide for yourself. The money in the card was the dowry we prepared for you originally. Since his family didn't give any dowry, we've been keeping it in the card all this time. If you get divorced, this money will come in handy. I was stunned, and my eyes welled up with tears. When Hunter and I got married, we didn't ask for a dowry. We were both only children, and when we discussed getting married, Hunter's parents said they wouldn't marry us unless we had 2 children, with the first taking my surname and the second taking his. When I gave birth to Guagua, my mother-in-law saw it was a boy and insisted he take the surname Hua. Boys should take their father's surname. There's no such thing as taking the mother's surname. If the second child is a girl, we'll be at a disadvantage. You spoil her too much. I don't care, the grandson must take the Hua surname. I was still lying in the hospital ward when my mother-in-law and Hunter were arguing fiercely in the hospital corridor over this matter. My parents are both rural teachers. They can't compare to my in-laws who've been struggling in business for years. I couldn't bring myself to refuse, so I gave in to my mother-in-law's demands. My father said, no matter what surname he takes, he's still our beloved grandson, it's all the same. To comfort me, Hunter transferred a 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs to my name. Shuang Shuang, I'm sorry you had to go through this. My mother is just like that. We'll have another child in a few years, and whether it's a boy or a girl, they'll take your surname. If Snowy hadn't appeared, maybe Hunter and I would have already had a second child. Unfortunately, I've already decided to divorce him, and we won't have any more children together. When I handed him the divorce agreement, Hunter thought I was just causing a scene. He didn't even look up. Lin Sky, I'm busy. There's a pile of work waiting for me at the company. If you have nothing better to do, go home and iron some clothes instead of causing trouble here. Hunter, I'm serious. I don't want any of your things. I'll only take the savings I had before we got married. I don't want the house or the savings. It's not that I'm being pretentious or generous. Most of the property and company shares are under his parents' names. Hunter works at his own company and gets paid monthly, so our savings after marriage are negligible. He slowly raised his head, but his expression remained impatient. What's your reason? I'm tired. He paused, then spoke slowly. I won't give you custody of Barry. It seemed as though he was certain I would compromise for the sake of the child. I smiled. He bears the surname Hua, not Lin. Custody naturally belongs to you. He sat up straight, tossing the agreement onto the coffee table with a frustrated expression. Speaking with a tone of moral superiority, he said, haven't I been good enough to you over the years? I've worked my ass off to provide you with the best food, clothing, and everything else, and now you're demanding a divorce over such a trivial matter? I've told you countless times, our relationship is purely professional. It sounded like he was scolding me for being ungrateful. I snorted derisively. Over the past 2 years, you've come home for dinner only a handful of times. Every time you said you were working overtime, but what you didn't know was that every time you said you were working overtime, I cooked dinner and brought it to you at the office. Without exception, every single time I saw you with Snowy, a total of 69 times. Last year, Gwigwa had a fever, but when we got to the hospital, you were called away by a phone call. When he woke up and asked me, I had to lie and say you were busy earning money. This time, you left us at the service area and drove off. You never thought about how I would explain it to Gwigwa or to my parents. Sometimes I even feel like you don't care about me or Barry at all. Since Snowy came into the picture, similar incidents have been too numerous to count. Hunter's expression changed. Have you ever considered whether Gwigwa could accept a divorce? He even tried to use the children to pressure me. I smiled. Hunter, you might not believe this, but it was Gwigwa who initiated the divorce. Even knowing he couldn't stop thinking about Snowy, I never considered divorce. On one hand, I was genuinely afraid divorce would hurt Gwigwa. He's such a good child, obedient and understanding. On the other hand, after being a full-time housewife for so many years, leaving him and taking a new step forward still made me feel anxious. But Snowy shouldn't have done what he did. He shouldn't have gone after Gwigwa. Last month, Gwigwa came home from school with red eyes and said to me, "Mom, please divorce Dad." I was taken aback. Over the past 2 years, I had gone out of my way to protect Hunter in front of Gwigwa, and I had always believed that Gwigwa knew nothing about it. That woman went to the school to find me and said that you and Dad were going to separate, and she would be my new mother in the future. I explained to him that it wasn't like that Mom and Dad wouldn't divorce. But he was calm, unlike a 9-year-old child. "Mom, I know everything. Don't sacrifice yourself for me. You two should divorce. I'll stay with Dad." "Why? Don't you like Mom?" I was confused. Mom has worked so hard taking care of me all these years. I don't want her to suffer anymore. He should fulfill his duties as a father. Hearing Gwigwa say those words, my first reaction wasn't relief, but heartbreak. I even wished he were like other children, who would cry and throw a tantrum when their parents divorced, rather than showing such maturity and understanding beyond his age. I began to reflect on the past 2 years. Although we lived under the same roof, my relationship with Hunter felt more like that of roommates, or even online friends, existing only through our phones. It was probably in this cold and distant family environment that Gwigwa grew up so quickly, and this made me feel deeply guilty toward him. Originally, I wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with Hunter. I thought that if he could distance himself from Snowy, perhaps everything could return to normal. So I used my mother's hospital discharge as an excuse to ask him to accompany me back home. The 2-day round trip was a rare mini vacation for the 3 of us. But he completely shattered my hopes. When he left us at the service area, I told Hunter, "Mom has decided to divorce." Hunter finally agreed to the divorce. It wasn't for me or for Gwigwa, but because his mother told him. She said that she had been living off us for too long, taking everything for granted, and that if she went out on her own for a while, she wouldn't be able to handle it and would naturally come back. It seems that over the years, it's always been like this. Whenever Hunter initially insisted on something or we had agreed on something together, his parents would say a few words and he would change his mind. When Gwigwa was born, it was about whose surname she would take. When she was 1 year old, it was about moving houses. Actually, my parents were right. One sentence left me speechless. From his perspective, his parents hadn't done anything wrong. They were just looking out for his best interests. Even after marrying Hunter and having Gwigwa, they've always been on guard against me. Over the years, his parents haven't been particularly kind to me, but they haven't been cruel either. They never interfere in my life with Hunter. Occasionally, when his mother sees me carrying bags of groceries, she'll vent to Hunter. Every time this happens, Hunter defends me. I work hard to provide a good life for her and Barry. If she wants to buy something, let her. It's not like we can't afford it. Overall, before Snowy showed up, Hunter was pretty good to me. Despite his busy business, he always made time to spend a day with me and Gwigwa every week, and he never questioned my spending. No matter how late he worked or had to entertain clients, he always came home. He always said, "I can't sleep soundly without seeing you and Barry." But then, all of that vanished with each call from Snowy. I often wonder if it's because of the contrast with the past that I can't accept him now. Before marrying Hunter, I had saved 100,000 yuan. Now that we're divorced, I still have that 100,000 yuan. Including the money my parents gave me in my bank account, it's enough for the down payment on a small 2-bedroom apartment. But I dare not buy a house, the future is too uncertain, and I don't even know what kind of job I can find after being out of the workforce for so long. Therefore, I rented a 2-bedroom apartment near Gugua's school. The rent is a bit expensive, but it's convenient for picking him up and dropping him off. Hunter and I agreed that he would take care of Gugua's daily needs from Monday to Friday, and Gugua would be with me on weekends. Finding a job turned out to be much harder than I imagined. The positions that were willing to hire me were mostly sales roles, with low base salaries and few days off. After searching for over half a month, comparing options, it seemed that the only decent option was a jade jewelry counter, which offered a base salary of 5,000. Coincidentally, on my first day of work, I ran into Snowy, who was out shopping. She was carrying the latest Hermes bag, smiling at me with a triumphant tone in her voice. She pointed to 2 small jade bracelets in the display case. "Try these 2 on." Seeing Snowy's designer outfit, my colleague Susie stepped forward first. She just started today and isn't very familiar with the products yet. "Let me help you try them on." Snowy stared at me. Let her do it. Newcomers should learn more. "Sky, I'm helping you boost your sales. On your first day, you could land a big order. Don't you want that?" Susie nudged me with her elbow and whispered, "Do you two know each other?" I shook my head. I took out the bracelet and placed it on the tray, applying hand cream while helping her try it on. "These 2 have small openings, they probably won't fit. Why don't we try ones with larger openings?" Snowy ordered. "You haven't even tried them yet, how do you know they won't fit? Stop wasting time, try them on me right now, or I'll complain about you." Despite my caution, the bracelet's opening was too small and got stuck at the joint, causing Snowy to yelp in pain. "It hurts! Do you even know how to put this on? You've swollen my hand." She spoke, glancing toward the door with a deliberate look. When Hunter walked in, I had just managed to remove the bracelet from Snowy's hand. Snowy put away her earlier boldness, her eyes shy. "Hunt, my hand is swollen, it hurts so much. I told you it wouldn't fit, but Sky insisted I try." Hunter looked at me, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes. I never expected Snowy to twist the truth like that. I carefully wiped the bracelet. "Miss Snowy, I clearly told you the size was too small, but you insisted on trying it." I pointed to another one nearby. "This one fits perfectly, the quality is excellent, but it's a bit expensive at 660,000. Would you like to try it?" Snowy pouted at Hunter. Hunter looked at me and agreed immediately. "If you like it, give it a try." Snowy looked at the bracelet on her wrist, flipped her hair, and glanced at Hunter, who was making a call outside the door. "Sky, I told you before that you're no match for me. With men, where their heart is, that's where their money is. I heard you only got 100,000 in the divorce." "Pfft, not even enough for a bracelet." Hunter hung up the phone and came back to ask, "I also want to know if Snowy is really that important to him. Are you done trying it on? Mr. Liu is waiting for us." Hunter hung up the phone and asked. Snowy nodded in satisfaction, shook her bracelet, and looked at him expectantly. "It fits well, I like it very much." Hunter stood motionless in place. "Then go pay for it yourself. Why are you looking at me?" Snowy stared at Hunter in disbelief, her lips trembling slightly. "Hunt." I smiled. "Mr. Hua, Miss Snowy just said that where a man's money is, his heart is. Spending money to make the one you love happy is such a good thing. You wouldn't be too stingy, would you?" Hunter looked at me coldly. "I'm not being stingy. It's just that the one I love isn't her." It was like a blow to the head. Snowy froze. Her face turned pale, and she trembled slightly as she asked, "Hunt, are you just saying that to make me angry, or do you really mean it?" Hunter said impatiently, "Of course I mean it. We're just business partners, nothing more." Fearing the situation would escalate beyond repair, Snowy reluctantly tossed the bracelet onto the tray and left the store. Once she was gone, Hunter turned to me and explained, "I brought her here today to meet Mr. Liu. The business deals I've been handling with Snowy will be transferred to him in the coming days. Once the handover is complete, I'll have no further contact with her, and I'll withdraw all the investment I promised her. Sky, you can't handle this kind of work. Stop causing trouble and go home." Hunter is a smart man. From the moment he walked into the store and saw me with Snowy, he knew what Snowy was after. To be precise, he knows exactly what kind of person Snowy is. Back when the Hunter family invested money to start the company with them and achieved some success, Snowy hooked up with a client. The reason was simple: that client was much wealthier than the Hunter family. To marry her ex-husband, Snowy forced his first wife to have an abortion. What Snowy didn't expect was that fortune is fickle. In just a few years, Hunter's business flourished, while the man she had climbed her way up to had moved on to someone new, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions. During the divorce, her ex-husband only gave her a struggling company on the brink of bankruptcy. She then approached Hunter with a proposal for collaboration. At first, I didn't know about it. I rarely got involved in Hunter's business affairs. It was she who, intentionally or not, kept calling me under the pretense of being a partner to provoke me, which is how I learned the truth. Therefore, Hunter must have been fully aware of Snowy's intentions. He simply enjoyed the feeling of having his former lover come back to him. After the divorce, he realized his mistake. Unfortunately, it was too late. As expected, I lost my job. According to Susie, it was because I was complained about, and the person who complained was Snowy. But I know the real reason is Hunter. If I'm not mistaken, he knows the owner of the store, and firing me was just a matter of him saying the word. Given my situation, finding a decent job was already difficult, and now he's made it even harder for me to find a suitable one. He just wants to use this method to force me to submit and go back to him. Section ID equals /article truck / unfortunately, I'm a stubborn person. I was determined to marry him back then, and now that I've decided to leave, there's no way I'm going back. If I really can't find a job, I can always move to another city and start over. Hunter's hands aren't long enough to reach across half of China. But that means I won't be able to see my child for a long time, and thinking about it makes me feel resentful. Why should I be the one to leave? I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I be the one to run away? I called my best friend in, who was on vacation abroad, and is a senior executive at a domestic services agency. I told her about my recent struggles and my confusion about not being able to find a job. She asked me only one question: "Do you want a decent job, or do you want a high-paying job?" She said that since I'd been out of the workforce for so many years, she could help me find a job, but it would only be an entry-level position, which meant lower pay and starting from scratch. I asked her about high-paying jobs. She asked if I'd considered domestic work. I paused, then admitted honestly that I'd never considered that option. When I married Hunter, there was a housekeeper in the family, but she eventually resigned due to family matters. At the time, Guoguo wasn't even a year old yet. We hired a few other housekeepers, but Hunter wasn't satisfied with any of them, so I had no choice but to become a full-time homemaker. Looking back now, what's the difference between my role in the Hunter family and that of a nanny? Seeing that I didn't respond, and assumed I wasn't interested. It's okay. We're currently hiring a specialist here. The salary is 5,000. Give me your resume, and I'll handle the rest. I asked, and what's the salary for domestic work? There's currently one position available, paying 30,000 a month with weekends off. I couldn't believe my ears. How much? Did you say how much? 30,000, but the family has pretty high standards. And explained that it was a potential investor her company was trying to secure, who had just returned from abroad. He had an eccentric personality and was very particular about food. They had sent over a dozen domestic helpers, but either they were fired or quit out of frustration. Hearing this, I started to back out, but the 30,000 salary was too tempting to resist. I asked and how she was so confident I could handle the job. She said, "Because you need the money, and I have my own motives. If you can handle this job, I'll likely secure the investment, and we'll be helping each other out." Actually, I knew that even without this job, it wouldn't make much difference to Anne's income. Having it would just be a bonus. She was probably just saying that so I wouldn't feel indebted to her. And was right. I do need money. I need money to buy a house and secure a stable income so that when Hunter remarries, I can regain custody of Guagua. Although Hunter doesn't seem to have any plans to remarry right now, the future is long, and who knows what might happen. It's always better to be prepared. And sent my resume to the employer, and they responded quickly, asking me to start work immediately. Strange, the ones I sent before weren't satisfactory, but yours was accepted right away. The next morning, I headed to the best villa district in the city center. The villa was clean and tidy, fully equipped with smart home technology, including a robot vacuum cleaner and a dishwasher. My tasks were minimal, just preparing lunch and dinner and doing some light cleaning. I started at 9 a.m. and finished at 6 p.m., with flexible working hours. During the first week, the employer was out of town, so I only needed to clean and walk the dog. It really was a job with good pay and little work. One day, I found out the employer was returning from his business trip and would be eating at home. While preparing the meal according to the menu, I heard someone open the door and come in. It was a handsome man with a well-built physique. When his gaze fell on me, he paused for a moment before slowly looking away. He must be the employer, Silas. I put down what I was doing and brewed him a cup of tea, bringing it over. He took the tea. I heard you graduated from a university. Why are you working as a housekeeper? I got divorced and need money. Suddenly, Silas stood up and walked toward me, his stunning face slowly approaching mine, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Silas, only Shinmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, don't you remember me? Looking at the man before me with his flawless features, my mind went blank. Do we know each other? Seeing me struggling to recall, Silas sighed helplessly. I'm hungry. Silas, only Shinmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, I want braised beef. After Silas went upstairs, I quickly grabbed my phone and hid in the kitchen, asking in the university class group chat, does anyone know Silas? Someone responded quickly. He's a junior 2 years below us who transferred majors later. What's going on? Sky, did you see him? He went abroad during his junior year and I heard he's doing pretty well in investments now. I replied, nothing, just asking. A junior 2 years below me? I scoured all the group photos from university and finally remembered him. In the photo, he was slender and elegant, wearing black-framed glasses that made him look a bit dazed, hard to connect with the confident and successful Silas of today. Back then, the only person who called me Silas, the name Shinemo used to address Lin Qingxuang, was him. Of course, 10 years is enough to change a lot. 10 years ago, Lin Sky was a prominent figure in the department, academically outstanding and good-looking, but now she's just a divorced woman who can't find a job and has to work as a housekeeper. I chuckled sarcastically. During those years at home, I lost many things, but I did hone my cooking skills. I can whip up Chinese, Western, and dessert dishes with ease. Just as I finished cooking, Silas came downstairs. I hope it suits your taste. Silas glanced at my hands, which were tightly clenched together. Silas, only Shinmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, as hands shouldn't be used for housework. My embarrassment could fill a 3-bedroom apartment. He continued, do you miss me? Silas, only Shinmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang. I forced a smile, you've changed a lot. Silas pulled out the chair next to me. Silas, only Shinmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, hasn't changed a bit, still as beautiful as ever. Do me the honor of eating with me? Refusing at this point would have seemed pretentious, and I was indeed hungry after a busy afternoon. I asked him, I heard you fired a dozen housekeepers? Yeah. Why? They knew I was single and wanted to set me up with someone. I don't know what came over me, but I blurted out, then why are you still single? Is it a matter of orientation or physical reasons? After saying it, I realized I had overstepped my bounds. How could a housekeeper pry into her employer's personal life? I quickly apologized and tried to make amends. Sorry, I've been so upset by my ex-husband that my brain isn't keeping up with my mouth. Silas paused for a moment, then suddenly laughed. I didn't expect Silas, only Shinmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, to be so nosy. Because I can't forget my first love, does that count as a reason? Of course it does. What a romantic guy. Silas drove me home. When we arrived at the community gate, I unbuckled my seatbelt and thanked him. Thank you. I'll be on time for work tomorrow. Silas turned his head to look at me. It seems like you really need this job. I need the money. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I saw a hint of pity in Silas's eyes. Is that how Hunter treats you? I smiled helplessly, then opened the car door and got out, waving goodbye to Silas. Then, I hurried toward the building where I lived. Today was Friday, the day Hunter was supposed to bring Gwigwa over. They should be downstairs by now. Upon seeing me, Gwigwa ran toward me happily. Behind him, Hunter stood with his hands in his pockets, looking displeased at me. You've been living too comfortably and now you want to suffer? You had a mansion to live in with a maid to take care of you, yet you chose to go work as someone else's maid. Now you know how good your life was when you were Mrs. Hua, don't you? So many people envied you. Without me, you can't even guarantee your basic livelihood. If you regret it, it's not too late. Hunter grew more animated as he spoke, completely oblivious to the change in my expression. I've already cut all ties with Snowy. Stop this nonsense. We'll remarry tomorrow. As he spoke, his hand reached out and grabbed my wrist. I instinctively shook him off. Hunter, I won't remarry you. Before, I thought the biggest problem between us was Snowy. Now I realize the biggest problem is you. Don't forget that you were the one begging me to be a full-time housewife. Over the years we've been married, I've ironed your clothes, taken care of you when you came home drunk, and cooked special meals for you because of your sensitive stomach. What's the difference between that and being a maid? At least when I worked as a maid for someone else, I got paid. With you, even after we divorce, your parents will still take advantage of me. Don't you feel ashamed saying these things? Later, we did hire a maid, but Hunter didn't like having strangers in the house, so the maid we hired didn't live with us and left every day at 6 p.m. Hunter usually came home after 8 p.m., so I would cook dinner for him. Then I would run a bath for him and prepare his clothes for the next day. I would even hand wash his underwear. He doesn't see any of this. In his eyes, I'm just a wealthy housewife with nothing better to do. It's truly laughable. He knows very well how his parents treat me. I didn't want to bring this up, but everyone knows the truth. We don't say it outright to spare each other's feelings. Hunter was speechless for a moment. After a moment of thought, he brought up Barry. Even if you don't think about yourself, think about Barry. With a nanny for a mother, how can he hold his head up in front of his classmates? I was taken aback. That was exactly what I was worried about. Though all professions are equal, and earning a living through labor is honorable, Gwigwa attends an international elementary school that costs 300,000 yuan a year, and most of his classmates have housekeepers hired by their families. I wasn't sure if his classmates would look down on him if they found out his mother was a nanny. Gwigwa tightly held my hand, his voice calm. All my classmates are taken care of by nannies. No one looks down on this profession. My dignity comes from my own achievements, not my parents' jobs. Besides, Mom asked me to bring the cake to school to share with everyone. They all loved it and envied me for having such a good mother. Not getting the answer he wanted from Gwigwa, Hunter lost his temper. Fine, fine. What a loving mother and filial child. Lin Sky, don't think everyone outside is as lenient with you as I am. The meals you cook are only edible to me. Don't let the employer get sick from them. If that happens, I'll have to step in and resolve it for you. Back home, I still felt a bit uneasy and hesitated before speaking. Barry, Mom, being a nanny, don't you feel inferior? After all, your classmates' families. Gwigwa took his homework notebook out of his backpack. Mom, it's early in the morning. Being a nanny is just a job, not being a servant. You signed a labor contract, not a contract selling yourself into servitude. After a pause, he continued, but I think you're overqualified to be a nanny. Mom, your desserts are delicious. Maybe you should consider opening your own dessert shop. I was taken aback. Opening a shop and running a business was something I had never even considered. Over the years with Hunter, he had mentioned more than once that my personality wasn't suited for business, which was also why he didn't want me involved in the company. I looked at Barry, but Mom has never done business before. I'm afraid of failing and losing money. He opened his workbook and started doing his homework. No one is born a business person. How will you know you can't do it if you don't try? After a pause, he looked up at me. If we lose money, I'll find a way to get money from Dad for you. I felt relieved. Though I had chosen the wrong man, at least I had given birth to a good berry. Gwigwa was right, you have to try to know. At 33, it's the perfect age to take risks. That evening, I roughly calculated the costs, renting a storefront, renovations, equipment. By the time it was all said and done, I had barely any money left. So, I decided to continue working at Silas's place for at least 3 months, so I could save up 90,000 yuan for emergencies, while also using my free time to research the market conditions. On Monday, when I arrived at the villa, breakfast was already set on the table. I checked the time, 8:50 a.m., and confirmed I wasn't late. Just then, Silas walked out with a glass of milk. Silas, only Shenmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, you're here. Let's eat together. I was a bit surprised because he had previously said that the employer leaves at 8:30 sharp every day. I asked, it's a work day. Don't you need to go to work? Silas smiled lazily, I don't feel like it. I had breakfast before leaving. I hadn't planned to eat, but I thought about it, he is the boss, and I need this job. Silas handed me the milk. I remember Silas, only Shenmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, used to bring a box of milk when he had early classes. I took the milk and changed the subject. What are your preferences for lunch and dinner today? I'll go out to buy groceries shortly. A fleeting glow appeared in Silas's eyes. I'll go with you. It's been years since I last walked through a domestic vegetable market. It was clear that Silas lived a very comfortable life, as he couldn't even tell the difference between basic scallions and leeks. Seeing vegetables with soil still attached to the roots, he looked excited. Silas, only Shenmo's nickname for Lin Qingxuang, that must be freshly picked. It's fresh, let's buy it. I looked at him helplessly. That's just to trick people like you. They use the soil to add weight. Halfway through our shopping, I received a call from Gwigwa's teacher. The teacher said Gwigwa suddenly fainted, and no one answered his father's phone. I didn't have time to think much, panicking as I shoved the vegetables into Silas' hands. Gwigwa is in trouble, I have to go to the hospital. Then I ran toward the roadside. Silas grabbed my hand, I'll take you there, don't worry. Fortunately, when we arrived at the hospital, Gwigwa had already woken up. The doctor said it was a food allergy. You clearly know the child is allergic to peanuts, yet you still let him eat them. As parents, you shouldn't just focus on your own world, you need to pay more attention to your child. It was obvious that the doctor had mistaken Silas for Gwigwa's father. Before I could explain, Silas responded with a smile, thank you, doctor. We'll be more careful in the future. After the doctor left, Gwigwa looked at Silas. Mom, who is that uncle? I spoke softly, Uncle Silas, Mom's employer. Say hello to Uncle. Gwigwa seemed a bit happy and called him Uncle. While I was paying the fees and handling the paperwork, the two of them were already chatting happily together. Hunter's phone was still unreachable. I was puzzled. Logically speaking, Hunter should care about Gwigwa. He shouldn't have forgotten that Barry is allergic to certain foods. When I pushed open the door and walked into the ward, Gwigwa was playing chess with Silas and asked, Mom, I'm fine now. When can we go home? I put the lunch I had bought on the table and said, the doctor said we need to observe him for a while longer. Let's eat first. Then, with a hint of apology, I looked at Silas and said, Silas, I'm sorry for the trouble. There's nothing else to do now. You can go back to your work. Silas turned to look at me, speechless. Little brother, is your mom always this cold-hearted? She uses me and then kicks me out. I hurriedly explained, that's not what I meant. I just meant that you've been so kind today, and I feel bad. Oh, then please treat me to dinner. I couldn't help but feel that Silas had other intentions. Before I could think more about Silas' intentions, I saw Hunter. And Snowy beside him. I froze at the hospital room door. Seeing me suddenly stop talking and look toward the ward, Silas also came over. Our eyes met. Snowy's gaze was full of triumphant provocation, while Hunter's eyes flashed a hint of panic, but it quickly vanished, leaving his brows deeply furrowed. Before I could speak, Hunter blurted out. So, you wanted to divorce me out of the blue because you already found someone else? When did you two start? Because he and Snowy had an ambiguous relationship, he naturally assumed that I was the same with Silas. Snowy poured oil on the fire. Sky didn't notice, you hid it so well. No wonder you were in such a hurry to divorce. Hunt, I told you Lynn Sky isn't as innocent as you think. Now you believe me, right? I didn't feel like explaining to them. I curved my lips slightly toward him. Hunter, I never thought you'd abandon Barry for a woman. You keep saying you've cut ties with that slut, but this is your idea of cutting ties? If this happens again, don't blame me for being ruthless. I'll demand custody of Gwigwa back at any time. It seemed like Hunter was busy with Snowy and hadn't noticed the missed call, unaware that Gwigwa was also in the hospital. He snorted coldly. You still have the nerve to mention Barry? If he finds out, will he even recognize you as his mother? I'm giving you one chance. Right now, in front of me, cut ties with this man, and I'll pretend nothing ever happened. At that moment, Barry's clear voice came from behind. Mom, is Dad here? Hearing Barry's voice, Hunter sucked in a sharp breath. His voice dropped several octaves. Gwigwa, what's wrong? I didn't respond and turned back to the ward. Hunter followed closely behind. Snowy also wanted to come in, but Silas blocked her at the door. Don't let the sick person in. Snowy was furious but, with Hunter present, could only pretend to be magnanimous and stand at the door. After hearing the whole story from Barry, he apologized to Gwigwa while trying to make up for his negligence. Barry, I'm sorry. It was Dad's fault, but I clearly remember checking the ingredient list and there were no peanuts. Snowy, despite standing at the door, was still showing off to me. Hunter stayed with me all last night. Maybe the auntie made a mistake. I had initially dismissed Hunter's explanation, but when I looked up, I noticed the subtle expression on Snowy's face. I whispered to him, did you go straight home after buying the bread? Hunter seemed a bit guilty. I received her call on the way back, so I came to the hospital. I asked the aunt to take the bread back later. So that's how it was. I got up without hesitation, walked to the door, and slapped Snowy across the face. Everything happened so quickly that by the time everyone reacted, the handprint was already clearly visible on her face. I warned you, if you ever touch my Barry again, next time it won't just be a slap. Snowy covered her face, tears welling up in her eyes, looking like a victim. Sky, I understand you're angry that Hunter took care of me, but you're already divorced. Then, looking at Hunter with a look of grievance, Hunter, don't get angry with Sky. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have called you yesterday. Anyway, no one will care if I die. When it came to Barry, Hunter was always sharp, and he quickly figured out everything. His eyes turned icy. Did you trade the bread? Snowy was clearly panicking, stammering, what, bread? I don't know. I didn't want to expose everything in front of Gwigwa. After all, for a 9-year-old child, the idea that a woman would harm her own child to get close to her father was too dark. But only by doing this could Hunter clearly see how much his white moonlight couldn't tolerate her own flesh and blood, how despicable she was, and thus completely abandon any thoughts of rekindling his old feelings for Snowy. When I divorced Hunter, I had already prepared myself for the possibility that he would remarry. After all, for a 35-year-old man, not getting married after a failed marriage is unrealistic. But his new partner could be anyone, just not Snowy. Finding out the truth was simple. There were surveillance cameras in the hospital. In the surveillance room, Hunter almost hit Snowy, but in the end, the slap didn't land on her face, which made me feel a bit regretful. Hunter shouted at her to leave, hurling harsh words at her. This was the first time I had ever seen Hunter lose control like that. When Silas and I were leaving the hospital with Gwigwa, Hunter chased after us. Sky, I've really broken up with her. She had a heart attack yesterday, and the situation was critical, so I came. I didn't expect her to do that. I swear I won't answer her calls anymore. I motioned for Gwigwa to get into the car with Silas first. I didn't want Gwigwa to see her parents arguing so fiercely after their divorce. I raised my eyebrows at him and said sarcastically, I told you time and time again that Snowy isn't a simple woman, but you just said I was being unreasonable. Now that you've seen her true colors, you're giving up on your white moonlight and begging me, the rice grain grinder? You're really despicable. I've had confrontations with Snowy before, but every time Hunter would defend her and scold me for being petty. You keep saying you've cut ties with her, but her shabby company is still thriving. Don't tell me you didn't secretly give her money to keep it afloat. It's laughable. You're trying every trick in the book to keep your ex-wife from getting any money, yet you're so generous with your mistress. Hunter frowned. I never gave her any money. If you don't believe me, we can check the bank statements together. His defense was so weak. I retorted, if it wasn't you, do you really think Snowy could have revived that dying company on her own? Who would believe that? I had assumed that after Hunter withdrew his investment, Snowy's company would close down quickly, but to my surprise, the nearly bankrupt company miraculously turned around. Snowy couldn't have done it on her own. There's only one possibility: someone was helping her behind the scenes. Back home, Gwigwa acted unusually and didn't rush to the fridge for snacks. Instead, he went straight to his room. I followed him in and glanced at him sideways. You know there's peanuts in the bread. Why did you eat it? He looked at me guiltily. Mom, you already know. Because of an allergic reaction that landed him in the hospital, Gwigwa became highly sensitive to the taste of peanuts. He wasn't so insensitive that he couldn't tell, and besides, the hospital he went to wasn't the closest one to the school. The teacher said it was Gwigwa who insisted on going there, so there's only one possibility: he did it on purpose. Mom, I'm sorry for worrying you. I know my limits and didn't dare to eat too much. Yesterday, when Aunt Zhang brought the bread back, she told me Dad was with that woman, so I took advantage of the situation. Mom was so clever to figure out the problem right away. I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I admired Barry's sharp mind, but on the other hand, I felt sorry for him having to deal with so much at such a young age. I walked over and hugged him. Barry, I'm sorry for causing you worry. These are adult matters. You just need to grow up happily. Such a precious Barry, we should hold him more while he's still young. Gwigwa patted my shoulder. Mom, you have a dinner date with Uncle Shin. If you don't go get ready, you'll be late. Barry is a good boy, but sometimes he's a bit clueless. When I went downstairs, Silas was already waiting at the door. Silas had chosen the restaurant, a Western-style restaurant. After a few rounds of drinks, Silas suddenly confessed his feelings to me. I'm divorced and have a son named Barry. I know. I'm 3 years older than you. I know that too. Silas looked at me with deep affection. Do you remember the moonlight I told you about? I pointed at myself. Could that moonlight be me? Silas smiled. Who else? Do you think it was easy for me to come up with all these ways to get close to you? You have no idea. I heard that the night you got divorced, I was so happy I couldn't sleep. The next day, I immediately bought a ticket back to the country. Thanks to your ex-husband for making things easy for me. I didn't agree right away. Although it's normal to start a new relationship after divorce, dating your employer is a whole different story. I don't know where Hunter heard about Silas confessing his feelings to me. He's been contacting me non-stop, begging me to remarry him. It's really annoying. When I was picking up Gwigwa, Hunter was standing at the door with a bag of groceries. He smiled at me. The three of us haven't eaten together in ages. We're already divorced. That's still a family of 3. I opened the door impatiently. As soon as Hunter entered, he turned to the kitchen to cook. Sky, let's get remarried tomorrow, then transfer the house into your name. I've already discussed it with my parents. I'll put 20% of the company shares in your name. See? His parents can be persuaded. He just didn't want to before. I ignored him and continued helping Gwigwa with her school homework. When Hunter placed the dishes on the table, the doorbell rang, and an unexpected visitor arrived. Silas. Seeing Silas, Hunter adopted the demeanor of the master of the house. You knocked on the wrong door. Don't disturb our family meal. He tried to close the door. Silas remained calm, placing his hand on the door. That's right. This is my girlfriend's house, ex-husband. The atmosphere instantly turned icy, eerily quiet. Hunter's Adam's apple bobbed as his gaze shifted between me and Silas. I cleared my throat and looked at the two of them. We've already met, so I won't introduce you again. Silas calmly walked inside and sat down next to me. Hunter, with a dark expression, walked over to him. this is my seat. Is your name written here? Seeing the two of them on edge, I gestured toward Barry across the table. Gwigwa, sit next to me. You two go across the table. Halfway through the meal, the two started arguing again. Hunter picked up a shrimp and was about to put it in my bowl. Schwang schwang, your favorite stir-fried shrimp. Silas caught the bowl midair. Thanks, ex-husband. I love shrimp, but Schwang schwang is allergic to them now. Hunter put down his chopsticks and asked Barry, do we have any allergy medicine at home? Gwigwa was confused. Dad, what's wrong? I'm allergic to thick-skinned people. Silas chimed in, give me one too. The air today isn't clean. I just wanted to eat in peace, but this damn battlefield was doomed to ruin the meal. Hunter looked at Silas with a meaningful expression. Things need to be replaced, but people are better off staying the same. Sky is someone who values the past. Some people should know their place. Silas retorted, some people are already in the past, yet they still don't realize it. How pitiful. I put down my chopsticks. My biggest trait is that I love new things and hate old ones. Hunter paused, then brought up Gwigwa. Schwang schwang, how can you bear to let Barry be separated from her parents? We're the complete family. Gwigwa was busy eating and didn't even look up. Mom can find me a stepdad. Uncle Shin is fine. Hunter's expression darkened instantly. On the other side, Silas's lips curled into a wide smile. Hunter's emotions erupted, and he stood up and grabbed me. Let's talk this out. Silas suddenly stood up. Take it out on me, don't touch her. I signaled to Silas with my eyes. It's okay, I also need to talk to him. Can you help me with Gwigwa's homework later? In the community garden, Hunter lit a cigarette. You're a married man, you should act with some restraint. Someone with his family background can have any young girl he wants. How could he possibly be sincere with you, especially since you're a divorced woman with a child? I retorted, Snowy is also divorced, and you're still fawning over her. Hunter's hand holding the cigarette trembled. Lynn Sky, do you really have to speak so harshly? I retorted, you're the one acting disgracefully, and you don't even let me speak. Schwang schwang, break it off with him. Let's pretend nothing ever happened and start over. We still have Barry, don't we? Besides, nothing ever happened between me and Snowy. Does it matter if anything happened? When you kept blaming me for her and abandoning me, did you ever think about how I felt? After the divorce, when you did everything to sabotage my career, did you ever think about how I was living without a job or money? Schwang schwang, I'm sorry. I just want you to come back. I looked at him. When we first divorced, I thought you would really change, that you truly realized your mistakes. But in the end, you just kept disappointing me. Hunter, it's over. After saying that, I turned and walked toward Silas, who was standing nearby. Seeing me approach, he sighed in relief and complained, why did you talk for so long? What did you talk about? I smiled and took his hand. He said you can have any young girl you want, he wouldn't marry someone like me, a divorced woman with a child. Silas grew impatient. Slander. He's just trying to drive a wedge between us. Schwang schwang, don't listen to him. Tomorrow is a good day. Let's go get married so he stops thinking about remarrying you. 3 months later, my pastry shop opened. The startup capital came from my savings and the New Year's money Gwigwa had saved over the years. He didn't know how to tell Hunter, but he ended up withdrawing all the New Year's money he had saved in the bank. I hadn't paid much attention to it before, but I never realized that the New Year's money from this kid was more than my savings. At the same time, Snowy's company declared bankruptcy. That day, I happened to be having afternoon tea at a cafe near her office. The company entrance was packed with workers demanding their wages. Silas fed me a cookie. Don't look, just eat. Snowy's company going bankrupt was Hunter's doing. Hunter had indeed withdrawn the funds as he had told me at the jade shop, but even he hadn't expected that Snowy had been in contact with her ex-husband after their divorce. As soon as Hunter withdrew his funds, she immediately demanded a sum of money from her ex-husband. That day at the hospital, after arguing with Hunter, he went back to investigate and quickly discovered that Snowy had been maintaining an ambiguous relationship with him while also continuing to entangle with her ex-husband. I had originally planned to use Hunter to bring Snowy down, but he didn't take action himself. He simply handed over the evidence he had gathered to Snowy's ex-husband's current partner. This much, he hasn't changed, he's always liked to use others to achieve his ends. The person who could push Snowy out of the picture back then can certainly make her have nowhere to go now. Apparently, Snowy's ex-husband's current partner is an arrogant young woman, nothing like me who's so weak. After the dessert shop opened, Guigua often brought her classmates to eat there. The desserts were delicious and quickly gained popularity, with business booming. When Hunter arrived with flowers, I was busy calculating that day's revenue, a six-figure sum. I never dared to imagine such numbers before opening, so it seems we'll have to start planning a branch. He looked much calmer, as if he had accepted the fact that we couldn't go back. Even though we're divorced, we don't have to cut off all ties, right? After all, we still have Barry. I forced a smile. Yes, you should be grateful we have Barry. That's why you can stand here in front of me. Although I can earn money now, all of Guigua's expenses and his future path still depend on you. There's nothing I can do. After all, when we divorced, I left with almost nothing. The Hunter family has been deeply entrenched in business for so many years, it's not something I can shake. Their 3 generations of accumulated wealth will ensure that Guigua's future path is smoother and broader. When I started earning money, I also considered fighting for custody of Guigua. But Guigua refused. He said that since I can't take the Hunter family's money, as long as he stays with the Hunter family, he will be the sole heir. Thinking about it, he's right. Although the Hunters are wary of me, they've been wholeheartedly devoted to Guigua, their grandson. The resources Guigua can access staying with the Hunter family far surpass what he'd get with me. Plus, I can spend weekends with him. Upon learning that Hunter had visited, Silas began pressuring me to marry him again. Shuang, you promised to marry me once the daily sales reach 6 figures, do you still stand by that? It was just a temporary measure, but I didn't expect it to work so quickly. I leaned in close to him. Did you cheat? He leaned down and whispered, I can't wait any longer.